Welcome to the Concussion Fix Podcast, where we lift the veil on concussion recovery and empower you with real answers to real questions about persistent concussion symptoms.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Concussion Fix Podcast. I'm Nikki Fraser, and I'm here with Dr. Hrkal and Dr. Marshall. And we just wrapped up our Q&A, and we had a really great question, especially with the timing. We are going into summer. There are a lot of different heat waves going on right now throughout the world. And as much as we aren't quite in a heat wave here in Canada, at least in our area at the moment, it's quite cool. I know a heat wave is coming. July and August are always extremely hot. And one of the questions was, how does heat affect recovery when it comes to PCS? This member had a hard time staying cool to the point of passing out, not being able to do certain activities around her apartment, different things like that. And we've heard this before from other members also in the past of they're just always running hot and they feel their symptoms increase due to it. So we thought this would be a great topic with this time of year to dive into. So maybe I will turn it over to you first, Dr. Hrkal, so that you can start sharing your thoughts on that.
Sure. I would say heat sensitivity is a symptom that we've seen before in persistent concussion symptoms, and especially if there's any sort of autonomic dysfunction. Again, your nervous system is always responding to its environment, and heat is a stressor, just like cold is a stressor. And so when you are in more of those extremes, your body has to adapt. And so, especially when it comes to heat, we are well aware of something called heat stroke. Your nervous system is adapting to where to push blood in your body. And so, when it's not great at doing that already, because they have some underlying post-concussion issues that affecting the body's nervous system, the ability to toggle between the sympathetic and parasympathetic, and also the autonomic nervous system to control blood flow, you're going to get symptoms. So obviously you have to first of all start with your environment. Can you control your environment? Are you able to stay cooler during these hot months? I kind of like using the analogy that heat is a challenge, just like exercise is a challenge. So we know that sometimes at the higher levels where our threshold is, when we exercise, we're going to get symptomatic. And so same with heat. And the natural reaction is to avoid it. And in the Concussion Fix program, we teach our patients on how to find their level of tolerance and then find that point that they can challenge their level of tolerance. And so, Cam, I know you talk about this in your section of the course. What do you think about helping people find this level of tolerance?
Well, yeah, first, just going back into like the kind of the physiology of this, right? After concussion, a lot of people end up with like a dysregulation of their autonomic nervous system.
Mhm.
The autonomic nervous system is how we control blood flow throughout our body, right? It controls our heart rate, it controls our vasoconstriction, how our blood vessels expand and dilate and respond to different, stressors in our body. Even like sweating and things like that are all like kind of autonomic processes. So if your autonomic system is dysregulated, sometimes people have issues with heat where they can't regulate that temperature well. And if the autonomic nervous system is not working well, you may not be able to control that blood flow well, which is so if all the blood vessels dilate in an attempt to cool down the body, that blood can drain from the head if it's not properly counterbalanced. And that kind of counterbalancing mechanism is an autonomic process. And so if that is not working properly, you kind of let that blood drain and people can faint. This can happen in normal situations, but obviously in concussion with autonomic dysregulation, it happens, even to a greater extent. And a lot of people will have increased concussion symptoms just because of this autonomic dysregulation. And so when you add another stressor onto the system, whether it's exercise, whether it's heat, whether it's, mental stress, whether it's financial stress, whether it's a fight with a spouse or a friend, that stress can start exacerbating symptoms. And so with any of this stuff, it's you want to build your capacity. So a lot of times people respond, and kind of what this person is doing, which is understandable, is like she found one area of her apartment that's a little bit cooler. She has a little, personal cooling device that she's, using, and she's basically confined herself to this one room in an effort to kind of avoid any of this increased heat. So she's kind of in this like survival mode. And I think that's fine for the time being, just to try and weather this storm and kind of get through it. But ultimately, that avoidant behavior is what makes things worse, right? So with concussion and autonomic dysregulation, like exercise is a cornerstone, just as an example. And you want to start slow. You want to start at a level that's sub-symptom threshold, and you want to gradually build yourself over time. So with this, I think it's the same situation. You want to do things that can help to balance your autonomic nervous system, like working on anxiety, working on mental health, breathing exercises, diaphragmatic activation, but also exposure to those same stressors that bother you. So exposure to increasing levels of heat in small amounts. So one of the suggestions that we kind of came up with was to just do small stints in the warmer parts, right? Go into the other warmer parts of your apartment for, 5 minutes, and then come back and cool yourself down, to gradually allow your body to understand that this is kind of normal. Like the example I used was athletes, right? Athletes training for some event in a warmer climate than what they're typically used to, right? I use an example of, let's say you have a Canadian runner who's going to run a marathon in Mexico City in the middle of July. It's going to be a lot hotter temperatures than they're used to. So they have to acclimatize to that. Typically, they'll do things like training in heat. They'll go and run wearing like sweaters in the winter to try and just get their body used to being able to tolerate that heat stress as an added component. So it's almost like, you would want to start doing that. You want to start kind of exposing yourself to that. Another good method would be like a sauna, right? Go into a sauna for a few minutes and then go out, and then gradually increase the time you can spend in that sauna so your body gets used to being able to handle that level of vasodilation, constriction, and that sort of thing.
So those are all really great for long-term helping to build. Is there anything that someone can do kind of in the short term? Because it does take time to build up that tolerance, that exposure part of it. So how could someone who is very much affected by any kind of heat wave happening right now over the summer,
Mhm.
short term, how could they kind of help themselves weather this storm?
Yeah, I think there's some simple things right away that a person can do. So, of course, finding the place in their residence, like let's say if they have access to a basement, it's usually generally cooler. So, you do want to kind of spend more of your time in a cooler place. Uh, Unfortunately, for this particular person that asked the question, it was just one area of their studio, and half their studio, one wall was entirely windows. So, of course, that environment's not going to be conducive to being cool. So obviously they're limited there. But going out in the mornings or going out later at night, it's obviously much cooler early in the morning. So that's like the best time to get things done if possible. If you do have to go out in the heat, kind of have an idea of what your tolerance level would be before you head out. So this person was doing chores that was taking, 20, 30 minutes, and that was way past their threshold. So then they got very symptomatic and felt like they were dizzy and wanted to pass out. Where, okay, so now we have to break that up into smaller chunks. So now maybe I'm just going to go out and water my garden and not also uh, pull the weeds and take out the trash all at the same time. So break it up around your threshold. And I think what Dr. Cam said, what you said, Cam, is perfect. Where you do want to kind of find that level of exposure, and try to stay within that, but also challenge yourself. Don't just stay in that cool room all day long, where your symptoms are the lowest. Because if we exercise, we're kind of expecting for us to feel something like we're feeling challenged, we're feeling hot, we're feeling sweaty. But I think with heat, we forget that that's also the same thing we're going to be looking for if you are heat intolerant. So, okay, if I know this is on my autonomic nervous system, I kind of need to like expose myself a little bit, find the symptoms, and then get back to a place where my symptoms subside, and then challenge myself again, and then challenge myself again. And every time it gets a little bit higher. So there's some daily things like hydration, exposing yourself to cool things like a cold cloth around your neck, putting your hands and feet in cold, like a cold basin of water, or things like even a bathtub, because you have these baroreceptors in your hands that will kind of cause your core temperature to go down as well. Hydration is a massive one. Everyone, that's very obvious, and people just start chugging water, but making sure we have electrolytes, because electrolytes are one of the biggest things, especially sodium, when it comes to autonomic dysfunction. And so there's an increased need for electrolytes for a lot of the people that are in this heat intolerant category. So don't just drink water by itself. Drink cool water, don't drink ice water, and drink it with some electrolytes. And I find that those are the best solutions just on a very pragmatic level. Did I miss anything, Cam?
No, I mean, I like the one that Nikki said too, is like, getting a towel wet and like putting it
Yeah.
around your neck and shoulders, like the areas where your body is like, you know, better to
Susceptible.
like cool down, and be like neck, armpits, groin, hands,
Yeah.
feet. Like those are the areas you want to try and like cool yourself down if you need to. But also again, just not, avoiding it. Another like perfect example that just came to my mind that I wish I would have said when I was talking to this individual, because it works well, is like my daughter has food allergies, right? She has an allergy to cashews and pistachios. And so one option is, okay, we avoid it forever. Here's an EpiPen. You don't eat it, you avoid it altogether. And if you ever come into contact with it, over time, your reactions tend to become more severe because you've avoided it. And then
Mhm.
they can be fatal. So, another option, and I'm glad that we decided to go this route, is we start giving her small amounts of the thing that she's allergic to. So, it starts literally with microscopic doses. And you just give her that, and you do that for 2 weeks, and then they double the dose. And again, it's still super small. And then they double the dose again, and then they double the dose again, and they double the dose again. So now my daughter, who is anaphylactic to cashews and pistachios, she eats 2 whole cashews a day and 4 pistachios every single morning. She gets up, she goes to the freezer, she grabs her nuts and she eats them just to keep her tolerance level up. And now we found out that she's also allergic to eggs. She just had a reaction on Sunday. We had to take her to the hospital. So now we're considering doing the same program called oral
Mm.
immunotherapy. We're considering doing the same program now for her egg allergy to gradually build up her tolerance over time. But you're starting in such a small amount. So
Yeah.
you can kind of go both ways. You can go pure avoidance, but guess what? Your adaptability to heat is going to become much less. So you need to expose yourself to heat. But again, it's not going out into 30-degree temperatures, 40-degree
Yeah.
temperatures for 20 to 30 minutes, right? That's the thing that causes people trouble. It's going out for 2 minutes and then coming back, and then going out for 4 minutes and then coming back. Gradual, gradual. This is over weeks to months to get yourself up to this tolerance level, right? If she right now eats an egg, like she can die from that. Like it would be really bad. But if she eats just a small, tiny microscopic bit, over time, eventually she can get up to being able to eat that whole egg. But we're not going to jump to that right now, right? And
No.
we're not telling people to jump to that right now. It's very small amounts over time to build tolerance. Like
No, that's a
anything,
good analogy.
your body will adapt to the stress you put on it, right? Same thing with exercise. You want to run a marathon. If you haven't trained for it and you try to run a marathon, you're going to collapse.
Yeah.
But if you set a goal to run a marathon in a month, in 6 months to a year, okay, now you can get there, right? You're going to start with running 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, and gradually build yourself up to being able to run a whole marathon. Same thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Same
And
idea.
I think what was mentioned earlier of because you do still need to live, you do still need to go out and get groceries, you do still need to go out, make purchases, that type of thing. But doing that at those very early mornings, right as, the store opens type thing where it's the coolest time of the day is going to be helpful. Um, and they actually have, like you said, the cooling towels, but they actually have cooling towels where when you wet it, it's colder than a normal towel. I know I've gotten one from Giant Tiger, Dollarama, things like that, where you just literally add water and then it's just a little few degrees cooler, but it makes such a world of difference when you're outside in the heat. So, having that while you're outside doing your errands, getting groceries, just so that you can get in, do your shopping, and get back home kind of as quickly as possible. Someone else had mentioned, I don't remember if it was you, Dr. Herkel, or someone else, of just or someone of just have a frozen water bottle and kind of keep that on hand too to just kind of hold. If you need to go out to somewhere and you can't, your temperature's starting to
Yep.
get back up and you haven't had that gradual increase yet. So kind of finding those little ways until you can expose yourself longer and longer.
The other piece of this that we talked about during the session that we haven't mentioned yet is the anxiety around it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've had poor responses to heat in the past and you see that the temperature is going to be increasing over the next few days, that stress alone of the anticipation is going to make your autonomic system get more dysregulated. And then you'll be less likely, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I knew this was going to happen, and here it
Yeah.
is. So you have to find ways to kind of calm things down. That's where you have to get into like the mental health aspect. You have to, talk therapy if it's needed, grounding exercises, breathing exercises, things that regulate the nervous system back down to a balanced level so that you're not amplifying that situation, right? Like you picture an individual like this, she's going to go out to get her shopping done, but halfway to the grocery store, she's going to be like, oh my God, it's too hot. What am I going to do? I'm never going to make it. No, 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 no. And now I'm into a full-blown panic, which is starting to make all those symptoms worse. And she's attributing it to the heat. But how much of that is actually related to her system response to it, her kind of mental health state in response to that, right? So it's a very multifactorial problem that needs to be addressed from all angles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things that are outside of our control, Cam, are we perceive as stressful. And
Mhm.
our environment is something that very much we don't have full control over, especially with something as broad reaching as temperature of your environment.
Mhm.
Obviously things for post-concussion patients, things like light, stores, noise, but those are things that we can either turn off or block out. Heat is much harder. It's like around everywhere that you're in. You can't really hide from it totally, especially if you want to go out somewhere. So I think it's a good point that the nervous system amplifies all your symptoms. And that's part of the challenge that this person had to deal with. And they admitted it. They kind of just said, you know what, this is an issue because I had a reaction in the past. I felt fainty or I felt like I had an increase in symptoms. And then the knee-jerk reaction is, I want to do everything possible to keep those symptoms at a bare minimum, and I want to push into that challenge. And a lot of people, you can apply this to anything. You could apply it to sound sensitivity. You could apply it to getting back in a car if you were in a car accident. You can apply it to exercise. But in order for you to overcome that, you're going to have to challenge yourself because that's going to allow that change in the neuroplasticity to happen.
Yeah. And I know Melinda can't join us today, but I know she would have some really great tips for that too. But just saying, when you're saying walking to the store, do a mindful walking practice while going. Doing those activities that Melinda talks a lot about to help regulate your nervous system before you go in, and then when you're back home also. Another practice to help regulate your nervous system again to continue on your day afterwards. And so.
For sure.
Any parting comments before we chime off?
I think we wrapped it up pretty good. I think this is a symptom people are dealing with, especially in the summer, especially with heat waves. Heat has been a problem for people that have been sensitive, the elderly, people that are sick for ages. And so we do our best to manage our environment, but in this case, we also have to find a way to maybe push into a bit of that discomfort. So that's my takeaway is that, really reflect on are you totally trying to hide from it? And is there any way that you can find the threshold that you have and challenge that a little bit on a regular basis, and then put in some of these practices that we just talked about, some practical things.
It's almost like you have to kind of prepare for anything leading into it, right? Like if you're somebody, and like, I mean, it's a bit late. We should have had this conversation in February because people then could actually do this work and prepare for it. But like if you know that summer is coming and you know that heat's a problem for you, that's the time where you actually start going, okay, I'm going to start doing some regular sauna. I'm going to try and find a health club or a gym, or maybe my condo has a steam room or a sauna or something where I can expose myself to higher temperatures, hot baths, whatever it is, to try and get your body used to tolerating that heat stress. So then come summer, it's not a big deal, right? Your body can handle it. But you need time to kind of prepare and work into that. So I mean, I think with anything, it's not purely avoiding anything that makes you symptomatic. It's finding that little mild symptom increase that you can start just pushing yourself into regularly, because then eventually it takes more stress to cause that mild symptom increase. And then it takes more stress. And then before you know it, you can fully expose yourself to that. It's the same thing with light. It's the same thing with noise, same thing with exercise, same thing with anything. You want to just kind of gradually expose yourself back into it, right? Don't do it all at once. Don't overdo it. That's not what we're saying. We're saying just small, gradual, incremental, but regular exposure over time is how you fix these problems.
Yeah. So anyone who's in Australia and New Zealand right now, now's the perfect time to start doing that for your summer in 6 months. But I think it's a great spot to wrap it up. Remember, recovery is possible. You are not alone. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Concussion Fix. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Concussion Fix podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful and that it gave you a little more clarity, hope, and confidence on your road to recovery. Remember, every step you take matters, no matter how small it may seem. If you feel that you could use a little more support on your healing journey, check out the Concussion Fix program. Just visit concussiondoc.io or simply type Concussion Fix into Google and read some of the reviews from people who've already walked this path. With over 3,000 success stories and an average symptom reduction of nearly 50% in just the first few weeks, it might just be the help you need to break through. Thank you again for listening. If you found value in this episode, please share it with someone you think could benefit. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a session. Until next time, stay hopeful, stay curious, and continuously remind yourself that recovery is possible.